and about. Here, there, and everywhere. What's new?
Hi, it's nice to see you again. I hope you're feeling well, and I hope you'll be with us for the next half hour or so. Today we're going to visit with George Fischbeck, whom we met yesterday, and with Merle Dusing, who by now is an old favorite around What's New. And most importantly, we met with you, our old favorite here. Yesterday, Merle Dusing told us some things about these, among other things, and today we're going to find out some interesting things about this and about things like it. So, out with the old and in with the new. That makes it 19-3, unfortunately in favor of the sponges. Were you ever beaten consistently by a sponge? It's very frustrating. Well, what's this good for, besides losing to sponges with? You can find out how long things are, or how short they are, or whether they're long or short, particularly if you have some variations of this, like this, for instance, or this. Then you can measure longer things, like this, or like this, or like this. Where's George Fischbeck? He's out in the garage.
Hello, come into my garage. If you knew how many of the neighborhood children come into the garage to watch me prepare my experiments, you'd feel welcome. Why don't you watch a few of the experiments and try them for yourself? For example, a few of the experiments that we might do. Hey, here's one, based on measurement. You know, all of science is based on measurement. Science began with measurement, you might say. How long ago do you suppose this balance was discovered? We don't know. It goes way back to most primitive man. It's a bridge to the past, really. This is used for weighing, for measuring weights, and works pretty well. But we have other measurements today that we think are modern, which really go deep into the past. A clock, for example. Oh my goodness. A clock is based on 60 minutes to an hour, is it not? And 60 seconds to a minute. Why 60? Why not 100? Why not 50? And the answer is pretty simple. 60 was a sacred number to the Sumerians that lived 3,500 years ago. And it's held on all of this time. 60 and 6 were sacred numbers to them. Where else do we use the sacred 60? In circles. Circles. A circle is made up of 360 degrees, is it not? 360, well, that's not 60. No, but it's 6 times 60. How sacred can you get? All right, 6 times 60. Now, the Egyptians, the one I was working on when you came in, the Egyptians were more interested in length, measurement of length. And they invented the cubit. You've heard of the cubit, C-U-B-I-T? They invented the cubit. The cubit was used for measuring land and so on. And what was it based on? Well, let's see how big it is first. It is about, get it even on that end, 6, 12, 18, it's a little over 20 and a half inches, 20.67 inches. Huh. Why did they pick that? Because that was the length of the a part of the human body. Let's see, they used the forearm, get her even right up here on the end. They used the forearm of the pharaoh. Hey, look at there, there's still some more. Do you mean to say that I am shorter than the pharaoh? No. This, up to here, was the regular cubit. But they had a special length, the length of the forearm plus an additional 4 fingers, which was known as the royal cubit, and they used that for building monuments and temples and things like that. We have the brick. The brick is a holdover from the early days, and this brick was determined by the Egyptians 3,500 years ago. Let's see. The brick, the length of the brick was the length of the hand, from here to here. The width was the width of the palm, from here across here. And the length was called, the thickness was 1 nail, which was from the this joint down to the end. Now, this was determined by the Egyptians, and we still use it today, the standard brick. Other examples of that. Let's find some more here. The Egyptians were sailors, and they invented the fathom. The fathom was the distance from the tip of the finger across the tip of the finger on that side, and it came out about 6 feet. 6 feet, 2 fathoms, 3 fathoms, and so on. And it's kind of curious to note that it's still being used today by the United States Navy, is it not? Fathoms are still units of measurement, and it was determined by the ancient Egyptians. Well, sir, there was another problem that the Egyptians had. They wanted to make sure that things were level as well. You know why? Because they were great builders. When they set out to build a pyramid, they take one block and they put the other block right up next to it, and they could see that it was level. Does that look level to you? It should. The table is level, and if the table's level, that would be level. But the Egyptians weren't building on a table. They were building out on the sands of the Nile. And let's get some sand out here. Yes, sir. There's a nice pile of sand. And when you start to build on this, now it may or may not become level. Let's see. Well, it's kind of break it down. Is that level in there now? Well, let's add some more. We're building a pyramid. Oh, that side is kind of really... What difference does it make? Well, the first time you try to build the second level on top of that, you discover that you have a very drafty pyramid. The wind just blows through it. And so they had to discover a way of making this level. Oh, more than just having it next to each other. Suppose they wanted to start at the other end of the pyramid at the same time, like this. They could take their royal cubit stick, their measuring stick, and the stick would go across, but the stick might be, let me see, the stick might be up or down, and still they couldn't tell just exactly how level it was. What would we use today? We have a carpenter's level. Carpenter's level would work fine. Let's see what happens here on a carpenter's level. How does a carpenter's level work? Well, there's a tiny air bubble that floats inside of the glass and floats up and down. See it go by? It floats up and down inside of the glass, and we can, hey, by jingoes, look at there. There it is, absolutely level now. But the Egyptians didn't have a carpenter's level. So what did they use? They had to devise, they had to make their own. We can do something very similar. Just a second. Here's an ancient Egyptian plastic butter dish. These are they use something very similar to this, a flat plate. Now let's see, we'll need some oil on it, and we'll put a tiny drop of milk on top of a flat surface that has been oiled, and that milk will float around. We'll move all over the place. Let me spread this oil around first, friends. If you get this oil too thick, the milk won't flow evenly. The milk will stay in one place. And if you get it too thin, the milk won't flow either. Now, it all where's some milk? Here we go. How much milk to put on? Well, 1 drop isn't quite enough, and don't put it there. Hey, just right. Now, watch what happens. This drop of milk will move. It'll move according to the, it'll always go toward the bottom, toward the lowest section. Do you see? And you can move it in all directions. You can move it this way, and you can find out where the levelness is. Huh. Well, let's try it here. Let me take this away and use one of these ancient Egyptian bricks over here. Here's the brick. Now, is it level? Let's find out. We just invented a level, didn't we? Here we go. Uh-oh. Not a chance. It's not very level there. Let me move this thing now. We can pull the brick down, slide the brick down into the sand. Ha! And there it is. Perfect. Oh, how lucky. Right in the middle. Well, we've got 1 brick that's level. Suppose they try to put down another brick now. All right, here's another brick over here. Let's get out our cubit. And the Egyptians were not about to carry around a little flat plate with a drop of milk in the middle of it. And so they invented another device that was made expressly for showing levelness. And this is an Egyptian invention. And you can make this too, just as well. Let's see. Ha, it isn't level. Well, it better not be. Now, on this one, you see the line moves away from the center. All right, right there is center. Right there is center. And if this side is high, like that, then it goes in one direction. And if the other side is high, it goes in the other direction. All right? Great invention. This levelness, finding how to, you want to know how to make one of these? You say that you made one of these already and now you want to make one of these. You know what I used? Picture frame. Just a plain, ordinary picture frame. Now let's see. I took the 2 long sides and I tacked it together and I glued it and I put a little picture frame holder down there in the bottom. And for across the middle, I used the short end of the picture frame. And that's how easily it's made. You can make one of these, take it to school with you when you study the ancient Egyptians, and you can say, "Teacher, look what I've brought in." All right, now that's the levelness. Now we've mentioned length, and we've measured time with the Sumerians. We've measured flatness. You know what else we can measure? By golly, let's measure weight. The one that we started out with, all right? Here's the scale. Here's the scale. This one really goes back into antiquity. The most primitive people of the world have scales. Ah, you say anybody can make a scale. All right, let me show you a little trick. If you want to make one, and you certainly should, I'm going to show you how to make one of your own in a few seconds here. Look at here. Look. Here is the cross arm. Notice the cross arm stands on an upright. Here's the upright, and here's the cross arm. And right underneath my finger is the hole that it's balanced on. I'll run the screw through it. You see that hole there? Notice that most of the cross arm is beneath that hole. That's the key. Make sure that most of your cross arm is beneath the balance point. And then what else do we have on it? Well, you've got to have two pans, one on each side, so it'll balance out. And that's all there is to it. Anybody can do it. I can do it. You can do it too. All right, let's try it, shall we? Our big problem, truthfully, is to get that balance arm. That's the big problem. Let me show you how to do it. Take a cork, and we want to cut out a section that looks like this. We're going to cut out a section that looks like this. And around on this side, and around on this side, and across through here. Well, let me cut it out, and then you'll see what I mean. Corks work best because they cut so easily. Don't cut your fingers. Fingers cut easily, too. Have you noticed? Especially with a sharp razor. You know, this measurement is so important. This idea of measurement is so important, not only for science, but also for cooking. If you have a person who in your home who can't measure, by golly, you're going to have a problem there in in eating the food in your house. There's nothing like a cake. There's nothing like a cake that hasn't, in which the ingredients haven't been measured. All right. Now, look carefully at it. This is the basic part. You see the way it looks? Now, what do we do next? Let me show you. We have one over here. You run 2 tiny pins through the bottom. See those pins? You notice the way the points come up, right up here to the tip of my finger. They come up through. Now, these are the balance, the rockers. Let's see how we can, we'll put that down in between like that. And now that will rock beautifully. See? Now we need a cross arm in it. Where we get a cross arm from? Very simple. Friends, there is nothing like a coat hanger in this world to make a cross arm. So we'll run the cross arm right through the middle of the bottom. Remember, it has to be below the weight point. I'm going to use a brick over here as our upright. Here's the brick, and we'll put the balance arm right through the middle like that. Now, this is a scale that you can make yourself at home, and it's good. Hey, what are we going to use? What will we use for measuring, for holding the material? Cut off 2 little pieces of a drinking cup, and here's your scale. Gee, I hope that you try this at home. I hope you try it, because it surely is fun. All right. Now, for weights, we need weights. Let me put you in on a little secret here. A nickel weighs 5 grams. 5 grams. Now that's metric. That's scientific measurement. And a dime weighs 2.5 grams. So 2 dimes will equal a nickel, and I'm going to put them both on each side. And here's the nickel, and here's the dime, and by golly, they balance out. Isn't that wonderful? Well, friend, I'm so glad that you dropped by, and before you go, I want to close with one idea. We owe a debt to archaeologists. We owe a debt to archaeologists because they have dug back into history and have come up with the beginnings of science in their discoveries of the measurement of the ancients. Hope you come back again. Meanwhile, try making a balance and a level as we made. Okay? Adios.
George Fishbeck, who was talking to us from Albuquerque, which is right about here in the state of New Mexico. And I'll bet you can't see him there, can you? And you can't see his garage either. As a matter of fact, you can't see Albuquerque, can you? Well, it's there, right about there, and we'll be going back there in the days to come. While you were visiting with Mr. Fishbeck, I was busy measuring things around here. I found out that it's this far from Albuquerque to New York, on our map, that is. And why is that important to know? Well, if we go just this far, we'll get from Albuquerque to New York, and that's where we'll find Merle Dusing.
This is the sea feather, one of the group of animals like the coral and the sea anemone that are plant-like and do not move. They are called coelenterates. But there is one of this group that does swim, and this is the jellyfish. Its body does appear to be made of jelly. Now, here is a jellyfish swimming along, moving gracefully through the water by pulsating its body. Jellyfish do have tentacles like the sea anemone, but the tentacles of the jellyfish resemble long, thin threads streaming out from behind. The tentacles look delicate, but they are capable of delivering a paralyzing sting that can mean death to a small animal.
You know, jellyfish really look and feel like jelly. Here, look at this one. It's like a package of transparent jelly all wrapped in cellophane. It is quite solid despite the fact that it is 94% water. Now, not all jellyfish are this transparent. For example, look at this one. You can see that it's not transparent. It has heavier tentacles too, tentacles that can deliver a very painful sting. Not all jellyfish, however, have that ability to sting. Now here is another inhabitant of the coral reef, the sea star. Most people call this animal a starfish, but it is not a fish, and sea star is probably a better name. The sea star has no head or tail. It is an animal that is organized on a circular plan. Sea stars move by using tubular feet that are found down on the underside of each arm. There are hundreds of these tube feet, each operated by hydraulic suction. Now here in the New York Aquarium, we can watch sea stars in a number of the exhibits. Right down there you can see a sea star moving along on his tube feet. Now, let's go out to the coral reef and see another kind of star called the brittle star.
The brittle star is different from ordinary sea stars in that it has no tube feet. The arms, however, are very flexible, moving almost like snakes, and it is sometimes called the serpent sea star. Our brittle star has blundered into an octopus, but it doesn't take long with those very flexible arms to move away to safety. If you take one of the arms and pull on it, it will break off and remain wiggling in your hand while the rest of the brittle star makes its getaway. A new arm will replace the lost arm in a short time. Our brittle star now drops among the sea anemones. The sea anemones are disturbed and begin to close up to protect themselves, while the brittle star moves off and away. Sea urchins are also members of the starfish family. This is the hat-pin sea urchin with extraordinarily long spines, spines anywhere from 8 to 12 inches long. They are very sharp and have a poisonous tip. These points can break off in your skin, so beware of the hat-pin sea urchin. The hedgehog sea urchin has much shorter spines. Now watch this. A large conch is on the trail of the sea urchin. The conch is a member of the mollusk family. It is really a giant carnivorous snail that lives in the sea. Its shell is 3 to 7 inches long, and like all snails, it moves along on a single flat foot. The conch is hot on the trail of the sea urchin, trailing it by scent just the way a dog trails a rabbit. The sea urchin is not very speedy. It has the same type of tube feet that the sea stars have, and it cannot move fast. It is going along now at the rate of 1 inch a minute, about 5 feet an hour. The conch, on the other hand, moves much faster, and so the conch is racing now, racing down upon the trail of the sea urchin. It comes in closer and closer and closer, and finally it touches the sea urchin. And then it takes it up and tries to throw it over, but the maneuver fails. Doggedly, the conch continues the attack. It has the feelers extended, searching for the telltale scent of the sea urchin. Suddenly, a feeler touches the sea urchin. Now the conch knows exactly where the sea urchin is, and it rears up its body and then slams forward and down upon the sea urchin. This is very much like watching a wrestling match in slow motion, except that these animals, of course, are moving at their top speeds. The mouth of the conch contains a weapon, a very hard, stony tongue with ridges that can rasp like a file. The tongue begins to rip away at the sea urchin, ripping away spines and tearing off tube feet and other edible parts of the sea urchin. And finally, when the battle is over, there is nothing left of the sea urchin but its hard, stony skeleton. There are many kinds of mollusks to be found on the coral reef, and this is one of them. It is called the file shell. At first glance, it looks like a scallop, and it is closely related to the scallops. The file shell takes in water between the shells and then squirts it out through valves on either side of the hinge on the back of the shells. These powerful jets of water move the file shell along with a jerky motion. Notice, too, the tentacles along the edge of the shell. With these it can touch and taste, and tucked away among the tentacles are a number of simple eyes. These are squids, and they too are members of the mollusk family. Notice the well-developed eyes. The eyes of the squid are similar to human eyes. Squids have 10 arms, 8 arms that are short and 2 extra long arms that are usually held in a retracted position. And notice the fins along the sides of the body that act as stabilizers. The squid swims by jet propulsion, taking water into the body through the mantle around the neck and squirting it out of a siphon just under the head. By turning the siphon backward, the squid moves forward. By pointing it down, the squid moves up. The squid both moves and steers by use of its siphon. The squid can change color almost instantly. Watch the squid turn from dark to light. The squid can catch fish with lightning speed. Watch the 2 long arms shoot out and pull the fish back to the mouth.
Those remarkable motion pictures were made by Harry Peterson, our underwater photographer. A squid is a peculiar-looking animal. It has 10 arms altogether, 8 short arms and 2 long arms like these. When these arms grab a fish and bring it back into the mouth, right down in here, you can see that it is equipped with a sharp cutting beak that cuts the victims into chunks and swallows it piece by piece. Now tomorrow we are going to learn about a close relative of the squid. We are going to investigate the life of the octopus.
Was I right? We went just this far and we found Merle Dusing. Right? Right. You're all invited back tomorrow for the first annual All-Star Sponge Game, Part 2, between myself and several specially selected All-Star sponges. George Fishbeck and Merle Dusing are coming, and I hope you will too. I see that it's just about time to go, so until tomorrow, this is Al Binford saying so long.
The name of this program, as always, is What's New? So next time we'll find out even more about the world we're in and the bigger world that's in us. This is National Educational Television.